you, Vinay ji, for calling me here. This is a Times Now Summit on Education, so I can give one more credit to myself. I've been the Higher Education Secretary for the state for 2.5 years. So I am very well into the aspect and the sector of education. I'm looking forward to your questions and I'll be very bebak in what I answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That's in the spirit of the kind of reforms Uttar Pradesh is seeing. Sir, to begin with, on a lighter note, when we just met outside, I asked you that how have you come, and you said I just landed in Delhi. So for the next summit, will you be landing in Noida Airport?
Yeah. Yes, very much. So we have been part of the journey of Yogi ji from 2017. He is the longest serving Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, of independent Uttar Pradesh, which means of independent India. And he is now served for more than 7.5 years. So no Chief Minister has repeated his term in Uttar Pradesh, and it is he who has brought about this entire change in the state. As we were discussing just now, UP is no more a Bimaru state. UP is, of course, with unlimited potential. We have 25 crore citizens in our state, and we have the youngest population in our state.
Yes.
And education obviously is the most critical aspect of the state, and how do we take the state forward. You all know that the Honorable Prime Minister set a target for the $5 trillion economy for the country. We are probably already 4th largest economy of the world, and I suppose that by 2027 we will be the 3rd largest economy of the world. If India can move forward with 5 trillion, we in Uttar Pradesh need to move it forward, and it is here that Yogi ji in around 2018-19 started this aspect of a $1 trillion economy. And I can tell you, if you want to get a $1 trillion economy from 250 billion, which is 4 times of the size we have right now, and we have already achieved the first year's target, there are 2 aspects which are very important for the state and for the population of our state, and particularly for the youth of the state. There is a very famous economist who came to us in Uttar Pradesh, and he was discussing with the Chief Minister and us, all of us. There are 2 aspects which the state has to ensure. One is quality education and 2 is skilling. If a country moves forward with its quality education and if a country moves forward with skilling, it will achieve the economic targets set for it, else the targets will never get achieved. We in India have not adopted a mechanism for getting quality education. We are shying away from getting ourselves tested in our schools, particularly government schools, on what quality of education we provide. And I can tell you 3 or 4 examples from my own professional career. I have adopted a school in a village in Lucknow. Our Chief Minister about 3 years ago said, why don't officers go to the primary schools and adopt a school? And I've taken it on myself to take forward the one primary school I've adopted. The very first day when I went there, in class 1, class 2, class 3 and class 4 and 5, it's a primary school. Out of the 27 or 28 class 5 students, 5 of the students were those where the teacher said, tum batao, pahada batao, tum batao, kaise Hindi mein bola jata hai, tum batao. Un 5 students ke alawa, when I inquired with the other 10 or 15 of them, they were somewhat on the edge. But 5 of the students, 7 of the students were absolutely zero. They were not even at the level of class 3. Now, this is the problem with our primary schools in our state, and this is where we need to take it forward. When we have a primary school in a village, we also have 4 nursery schools, which are somewhat on the edge. These nursery schools have private teachers who are not getting more than 5,000 rupees a month, maybe not even 3,000 rupees a month. They are performing better. While our primary schools, where we have teachers who have been given, who are getting salaries something like 25 to 30 or 40,000 rupees, we are not getting the quality that is possible. And this is the challenge for us. Jab हम अपने बेसिक प्राइमरी लेवल पर अपने 30-35 लाख बच्चों को आगे नहीं बढ़ा पाएंगे तो हम कैसे आगे बढ़ाएंगे इसको? This is where Yogi ji has taken it upon himself. We have to have good schools in the government sector. He started with getting model schools made at every divisional headquarters, what are called the Atal model schools. This school is has hostels, this school has a library, this school has a conference hall. Why can't children from very poor background be taken up based on merit into these schools? So 18 schools have been put in place. Now every district will have a model school where we will have the best of education at these model schools. Then further, every tehsil and block will have a model school, and slowly and gradually we will come to the Naya Panchayat where we will have a model school. Why can't children travel, say about 5 to 10 kilometers to go to a good school? If children of Noida can go to schools in Delhi, if children from Delhi can go to schools in Noida for 20 kilometers, my child used to travel to DPS RK Puram from Noida. So why can't children from villages travel 5 to 7 kilometers and go to a better school? So this is the challenge before us. This is what we need to do. Quality education in primary schools. So this is what I would say. I don't know what is the background of our audience here today. How many of you are educationists? Can you raise your hand? Very good. And how many of you are students? Students. Acha, very good. So lots of educationists. How many of you would be researchers in the area of education? This is the challenge before us.
Yes.
We made a grand mistake, and I can see this. I have been a collector all over the place, and we saw the right to education come in place. बिना कुछ पढ़े, आप अगर क्लास 1 से क्लास 2 में चले जाएंगे, बिना कुछ पढ़े आप क्लास 2 से क्लास 3 में चले जाएंगे, बिना कुछ पढ़े क्लास 5 से क्लास 6 में चढ़े जाएंगे और फेल नहीं होंगे, वो बच्चा कभी आगे नहीं बढ़ने वाला. And this right to education that we adopted in our country has created issues. I can challenge. I am a grandfather now with 2 young grandchildren who are now going to a play school. I can challenge anyone in this audience who have children, younger children or grandchildren. Every one of you would have your child in one of the best of schools. Every child is being given a monthly test. Every child is being given a test every semester. Every child has to get a particular level to go to the next class. Why did we adopt this mechanism of not having exams, not holding back children at every level, and why would we not have quality? I can't understand how could people in our country adopt a mechanism like this. And this is where the challenge lies. We, of course, with the new education policy, have gone in the right direction. All the new areas have come into place. Skilling is becoming important. Why can't we use our schools, the infrastructure of our schools in the evening classes for skilling? So all of these new ideas have come about, but the new education policy has to go whole hog within our systems. A lot of effort needs to be made. A lot of real orientation has to be done. The effort is there. If we want to have a Viksit Bharat, we have to have quality education and quality skilling. And this is what the challenge before us is. Yes.
So you work closest with the Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, being his chief advisor. If we were to ask you, what is Yogi's economic vision in 3 or 4 words? And similarly, what is this Yogi model of education that people keep talking about these days?
I have been the Home Secretary of the state for the longest period possible. So the first chapter of Yogi's model is the rule of law. Zero tolerance to crime and criminality. World over, not just India, world over. You see gun violence in the United States. You see wars all over the world taking place. I mean, can you imagine how a child in Gaza would be studying now?
Yes.
So all of this is happening all over the world, world over. Unless society has the rule of law and there is zero tolerance to crime and criminality, no economic development can take place.
Yes.
No businessman would invest in a state where the rule of law doesn't exist or the rule of law is on the edge. So this is what he started with, the rule of law. And this is where in Uttar Pradesh we now have the lowest, one of the lowest crime figures per lakh population in any area of crime that you can think of. So this is what was the background for starting development. 1, 2.
Darwin, हो गया क्या?
Relax, guys. Evolution takes time.
Oh, my science. Nobel Prize छोड़ो. It'll be Novi fail. Newton, एप्पल खाना बंद करो. Presentation 15 मिनट में है.
ग्रेविटी में बनाते हैं.
With thousands of presentation templates, never start with a blank page.
सूरी मरी.
Canva, दिल से डिजाइन तक.
Pradesh, and we are suffering because we don't have doctors. We never allowed medical colleges to happen.
So how much have
we
you progressed
had a
on
medical
that?
council that did not function in the way India had to move forward.
So how much have you
now
progressed
with
on,
the new dispensation, every district now has a medical college. We are moving towards that. More than 60 medical colleges are in place. Almost 40 to 45 medical colleges are now operating. 1. Skill development, again, we have started a new policy. This is an area where we have taken private partners like Tata's. They have come over and taken over our ITIs. 150 ITIs have been taken over so that up-market skilling is to be taken up. I am doing a center of excellence with the Tatas for AI, cyber security, for 3D printing. All these areas are another areas where a lot of work needs to be done. We need to, everyone is talking of artificial intelligence all over the place. We obviously are way behind any country of the world in terms of artificial intelligence and pure area of artificial intelligence. But what is that we can focus upon in Uttar Pradesh is we can train our engineers, we can train our students, we can train our younger generation into how to work in the area of artificial intelligence, because this is where a lot of effort can be made and it will be successful. I was speaking to some of the topmost investors of the world, topmost companies of the world. I would not like to name them. All of them are now looking for youth in India to provide the technological backup to do innovation.
Yes.
Startups and innovation. So these are areas where a lot of effort is there. New startup policy is there in Uttar Pradesh. We have a new policy for higher education. 43 private universities have been established. Of course, there is a challenge so that quality education in private universities is to be taken up. But quality primary education is the very first step for the success of a state. The entire state now has what is called the Kaya Kalp Yojana from the Government of India and other schemes. So every school now has technology. We have smart backboards, all sorts of 19 areas are there in every school where a lot of effort is being made. So things are being taken up. Of course, we now need to saturate our schools in the state.
Sir, you mentioned the demographic advantage, the fact that we have so much of youth population. India's largest share of youth population is in UP. But just look at hindsight. Ever since COVID-19 pandemic hit us, everyone was all over the world, investor community, the global businesses were talking about China plus one. And we were so hoping that this entire demographic advantage would fetch us all this investment. But a lot of it has moved to smaller countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. Why not UP?
Well, you're giving the example of Vietnam. I would say that China has invested in Vietnam as disguised investment so that they can do away with the barriers that are being put for companies of China. So I would not like to give a quote on Vietnam. But I can tell you, we have done the defense corridor in our state. The Honorable Prime Minister laid the foundation stone. In Uttar Pradesh, who would have thought that defense corridor would be a possibility? But I can tell you, after 6 years of sustained effort, we now have a situation where at Kanpur, the defense corridor at Kanpur is making ammunition for the country as well as for the world. And more than 2,000 people are now employed there. And this employment is not just for youth from Uttar Pradesh. This employment now is for youth from other states also, because if they are trained in good work, they can obviously get employment in our state. So, in COVID, as you have mentioned, 40 lakh of our workers came back from the various states. I was the Home Secretary, so I had to do the entire maths. I had to arrange for all the trains which had to come back. I had to arrange for all the buses. I had to also manage the students from Kota who had to come back after the lockdown. So 40 lakh people came. Our Chief Minister said, told all of us officers that, well, why don't we get a complete digital data backup on the people who are coming back. So what we said was, the Labour Department has a lot of funds. Why not give 1,000 rupees each as compensation to these people who are coming? In the garb of 1,000 rupees each, a lot of digital data would come back to us. 40 lakh people were mapped. I can tell you, we have a number, say around 23 to 25 lakh never went back to places in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Maharashtra or Gujarat, because UP already has this boom for new investment. So in these new areas, some of these people could get work. Large, big projects are coming up. As I have just told you, maybe by June, July next year, we will have the first trial landing at the Jewar airport. And by September next year, 2025, you could travel from New York to Noida straight, bypassing Delhi. So this is the type of development that we are going to have. Yes.
Wow. Sir, historically, landlocked states have struggled economically, right? And the way we are seeing UP's transformation with manufacturing, with a lot of utilization of its manpower strength and so forth, how can the landlocked state like UP boost economic competitiveness when it comes to exports? Because ultimately, the kind of value exports will drive for the economy. Of course, Atmanirbhar Bharat is one focus, but exports.
We have one advantage. I mean, I can say very clearly. We have 25 crore people, so we have the largest market of the country. We have the largest market for internet now. Yeah. Because 25 crore people are working on their mobiles every day. Almost mobile penetration is more than about 60 to 80%. Smartphone penetration is more than 40 to 50%, even in the rural areas. So we are the largest data consumer for the state. We are also the largest consumer now, probably for cement and steel also, because the biggest projects are coming up in Uttar Pradesh as a state as a whole. Then we are also the largest consumer for consumer items, and we will probably very soon overtake other states in terms of number of cars which are used in the state. So all of these things are going to happen. We have the largest expressway network of our state. We did 80,000 crores of expressways in our state. If you today want to travel from here to Lucknow, it hardly takes 6 hours. I have been part of that exercise. I have been the CEO of the expressways network. We did 80,000 crores of expressways. We are now going to have the longest expressway from Meerut to Prayagraj. So if you want to go to the next Kumbh, you can travel from Delhi to Prayagraj in about 8 hours. So who could have thought that this would have been possible? Yesterday, I was in a field in Lucknow where in a poly house, kheera was being grown. And that kheera is being now supplied to Delhi because the expressways allowed very fast movement of vegetables to the various consumer centers in the country. So these things are happening, and obviously हम एक रहेंगे तो नेक रहेंगे, जो योगी जी कह रहे हैं, तो निश्चय ही देश को भी आगे बढ़ाने का जो काम है, सबको एक रह के मजबूती से आगे बढ़ना है. जी.
Sir, do you have a launch date for this drive from here to Prayagraj? You spoke about the new expressway.
Yes. So the Meerut to Prayagraj expressway, Yogi ji was of the view that one, we should have an expressway of the state in the eastern part of the state. So we built the Purvanchal expressway. If anyone of you would have noticed, we got the Honorable Prime Minister to land on an Air Force aircraft on the road. This has never happened anywhere in the country. Then we had something what is called the Bundelkhand Expressway. He said that Bundelkhand is an area where we need an expressway. Then he said that why don't we have an east-west expressway from Delhi to Prayagraj. If you all know, from Delhi to Meerut, there is already an 16-lane road already existing, and an RRTS is also coming, which is going to start next year. The Honorable Prime Minister had laid the foundation stone. First part has already been started. So from Meerut to Prayagraj, we are building a road of 45,000 crores. That's the largest project of the country in the public-private sector. And hopefully by next year, June, we will have it in place. Obviously, when you have fast movement of development happens, logistics happens, consumer growth happens, the state grows on it. There is one point on which I would like to tell you. We are here in the Times Now Summit. I was listening to the speakers on the munch. I have been reading the Times of India when I was in class 5. So I have done almost 50 years of Times of India reading. And today when I was coming from Lucknow to Delhi, I was reading the Times of India again. And the issue here was on the use of digital gadgets. Yes. Yesterday, Yogi ji inaugurated the National Book Trust Fair at Lucknow. And he did mention, and he is very clear, he's a very avid book reader, that reading is now disappearing from our plate. How many of you are fathers and mothers? How many of you are grandfathers and grandmothers? We are not teaching our children to read. And this is a major issue which is going to challenge our country. Nobody can be a good student unless he or she knows how to read and then obviously write. Yogi ji yesterday said, quite frankly, most children are using a digital device for more than 6 hours in a day. And almost 90% of that time is wasted because
Finding love. The joy of togetherness. Jacob's Creek Unwind non-alcoholic wine. What are you celebrating today?
सुनो एक अच्छी इंश्योरेंस
एक अच्छी इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी एआई से पूछते हैं। एक ऐसी पॉलिसी जिसमें प्रीमियम पेमेंट हो लिमिटेड पर इनकम आती रहे लाइफ टाइम।
LIC का जीवन उत्सव।
वाओ,
लाइफ टाइम सेलिब्रेशन मनाइए। LIC के जीवन उत्सव के साथ फ्यूचर सेट है।
To the technology. So this is again going to be a major challenge. Times Now, you all have a history of more than 100 years of reading. You need to take up projects of how to take up reading amongst children.
So I would like to...
and if you want to organize a competition for reading, if you want to organize a competition for taking things forward in this direction, I'll be very clearly part of this project, and we will support it from the state government also. Believe me, there are very few people now, I have seen in our younger days, if you read 4 chapters, आप बड़े आराम से जो है उसको पढ़ के बता एक बार पढ़ने के बाद you could come back on this. Today, if somebody is given a poem, they can't recite a poem even after reading it for 5 times. Because we don't have this. मोबाइल खोल के तुरंत जो है देखने लगेंगे कि कैसे क्या बोलना है. Now, this is a major challenge for us. If you want, younger children are now not learning the tables. They are all using the calculators and things like this. Simple calculations are now not happening. This is a challenge for us. This is a challenge for us in the younger generation. We need to address this very fast.
So I would like to inform you, sir, that only yesterday, timesnow.in and Times Network Digital have started a campaign asking for public view around whether India should ban or restrict social media for children under 16. Wow. To hear your endorsement, it's very heartening for us. And we would really take this campaign forward because it's not just about government banning. That's for policymakers like you to decide. But we want parents to be more aware about it. Education is to be more aware about it.
If I were to have my way, I would make right to reading a right. And Because even unless you read 25 pages in a day, you are not an educated person. And this is what I would always suggest. I'm an old-time student, and I'm from IIT Kanpur, and we have seen very good students in the IITs, and of course, in the various educational institutions we keep visiting. All good students are good readers, and all good students are good writers also. So this is something which you will need to promote, and we would be partners for this, personally as well as otherwise.
Thank you, sir. That's so heartening to hear. Sir, there's one more thing which is very close to my heart personally. We send so many students abroad. India has become biggest exporter of students to the world, right? And there was a study which said that $60 billion are being spent on this study abroad, right? This has become a fad. Not all the children are going to Ivy Leagues. If it is about idea exchange, going to the centers of excellence, it's different, because probably they will either bring something back to the economy, or they will be excelling for the betterment of humanities. These are students who are going out because either we are not able to provide them appropriate kind of a platform within the country, and in that format, why don't we really promote private higher education more?
I will answer this question personally. I have two younger brothers who are in the United States. They are United States citizens. They are both from IITs. One of them is also from the IIM. I would not be, and when I joined the civil service, the very question which was asked by my interviewer was, if you are from an IIT, why do you want to become a bureaucrat? I am of the view that every student should be free to be given the choice he or she wants. If the family can afford sending a child abroad to a good institution, the child or the student should be allowed to go. We should not have restricted policies for that. Of course, in the United States, it's going to be difficult now with the type of environment there is. In Europe, it's already very difficult. But what we should do is that in higher education, we should provide good education within our country and allow foreign universities to work within our country, because that will give a challenge to our Indian universities, our private universities, to also do well. I have been a higher education secretary, and 5 institutions, 5 universities, the first letter of award has been given by me. They are very known universities. I keep telling all the vice chancellors, all the chancellors, that unless you have good quality teachers, your institution will not survive. Yeah. And this is the main challenge for us, getting good faculty, good teachers for all the institutions. I get a lot of sifarish for बच्चों का admission. स्टेप बाय स्टेप में एडमिशन करा दो. वो कौन सा स्कूल है उनका, शिवनादर के स्कूल में एडमिशन करा दो. कल yesterday I got a सिफारिश की बॉम्बे में एक नीता अंबानी स्कूल है, उसमें एडमिशन करा दो. Now people are all asking for good education. These places are providing good education because they have good teachers. ये जो teachers का जो पूरा एक system है, this will need to be looked into. Engineering institutions, management institutions, medical institutions, all are short of faculty. We as a country will have to take a call on how to provide good faculty to us. My daughter has been to Harvard, but she chose to come back and she is working in India now. So I have seen the Harvard University from inside. I have a niece who is now studying in Stanford, and I have been to the Stanford campus also. I can tell you, I have been to my IIT Kanpur. I am on the board of innovation of IIT Kanpur. I keep going around all the big institutions of our country. We have a lot of work to do to bring our educational institutions to international standards. Gujarat has made the difference. They are starting campuses from abroad in our country. The UGC now has norms for allowing foreign universities to come into India. We should have an open approach of getting universities into India. We should have an open approach for our students going abroad. There is, the Honorable Prime Minister says this, abhi G20 mein he said this, हमारा जो बिल्कुल भाव है कि the entire world is one. So we in India should have a broader perspective. We should allow our students to go abroad. They will always contribute to India in whatever sense possible. But we will have to provide good quality education in our country. For this, a lot of hard work is required. Competition is always there in the private sector, but obviously the governments will have to ensure that there is no in the area of quality education, there is no hanky-panky which happens in the private universities.
Sir, last but not least, you emphasize on this topic of teacher training and teacher education. The quality of teachers, not just at higher education level, but even at primary education, even at schooling level, is a big challenge. And although all of us have memory of having that one teacher in our school who really changed our lives, but how do we ensure that this kind of standardized quality improvement happens, and what are the steps being taken in that?
Teacher training and teacher motivation and ensuring that, particularly in the government setup, teachers perform at their best is a challenge. And it's a very difficult challenge. I have been part of the system, so I can't really give you ready-made answers. But in the new generation that we have, I can tell you, I'm giving you an example. In Uttar Pradesh, we have seen in the last 5 or 7 years, more than 1 lakh or 1.5 lakh teachers appointed, and quite a few of them are women. Now the challenge for us is that a woman or young lady who gets a job in Sant Kabir Nagar, which is close to Gorakhpur, husband is working in Noida, how do you manage? Now this is a challenge, this is a big challenge. How do you ensure that teachers are where they would like to be and they would like to work? In a government system, that is not possible because transfers of teachers is a major issue. So those challenges are there. So unless the teacher is comfortable in where she or he is posted, so that is a major issue for us. I don't know how we are going to solve that. That's a major challenge for us. 2, children within the government setup, the parents will need to work harder. I keep saying that the parent-teacher meeting is one of the most important systems to regulate education. In the government setup, in primary schools, in the villages, we need to make our parents aware that their children need to have the best of education. I can tell you, slowly and gradually things are changing. People are sending their children to what they call as nursery schools, even in the villages. But अभी उन nursery schools का standardization नहीं हुआ है. And अभी आपने यूपी में देखा होगा मदरसा का एक issue आया है. I was in a district called Azamgarh, and my MP was a very senior Muslim gentleman. He wanted me to come to a Islamia university for a project under his MP scheme. I said, I will not go unless and until you start teaching science and maths to girl students in that university. So that is again a challenge where we can, some of these areas of madrasas, even in Sanskrit schools, can we not teach science and physics? Doesn't that child have the right to teach, to learn physics and science? So these are issues which we still need to take a call upon. Our society is yet not prepared to answer most of these questions. So these challenges are there. But slowly I see that lots of younger parents are wanting their children to do well. Private schools are coming up. CBSE's pattern is now uniform all over the country. I am sure things will look up in times to come.
Thank you.